Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Cafe Morning Grind. Go ahead, go to the counter, order your coffee, come back to the table. Let's get this meeting started. All right? Cafe Morning Grind. Let's get it. Good morning, party people. I hope you got your coffee ready. I hope your week has been going well. Let's get this meeting started. Let's get this meeting started. Welcome to Cafe Morning Grind. Get settled in, get relaxed. So today in this meeting, we are gonna go over this Rick Child verdict. Okay, I know there's been a whole lot of uproar about it. A whole lot of I want to boycott Asians and all these different things. So in the cafe news, we actually gonna go over a couple of clips, hearing from the lawyers, and then we're gonna go into black coffee. All right, stay tuned. Let's get this thing started. Let's go. So this beautiful young lady right here, this is Lauren, the lawyer on TikTok. She's gonna go into some things about the Ray Child case and how she view it from a lawyer standpoint. Okay, let's let her cook.
2023, Rick Child chased a 14-year-old boy named Cyrus out of his family's convenience store after believing that he stole a bottle of water. Now, the prosecutors argued that this was an unjustified killing, meaning there was no defense for this. The child was running away. He was shot in the back. He did have a weapon on him, but it was only exposed after he fell to the ground and it came out of his pocket. That the gun was never pointed towards anyone. He was never threatening anyone with a deadly weapon. Now, the defense made the opposite argument. They argued that the gun was actually pointed at the shop owner's son, and the shop owner shot the 14-year-old in defense of his child. Now, defense of others is a legal defense.
Point number one, she's making certain points on here to get to a certain point. I like where she's going with that. I like where she's going with that. Let's pay attention.
Especially when you're defending someone that you have the legal duty to protect, like a parent and a child. But you have to meet the person with the same level of threat that they're receiving. So if it's non-deadly force, you have to protect with non-deadly force. If you're being threatened with deadly force, then you can protect with deadly force. So since it was a gun and a gun, that's on the same level. But if he threw a
Right.
rock, you can't meet with a gun. You understand the concept. We know the jury's verdict was not guilty. That technically does not mean that the jury believes that Rick Child did everything legally correct. What it means is they do not believe that the prosecutors met their burden, that beyond a reasonable doubt that it was murder. And when you are
Right.
accusing someone of murder, you have to prove malice. And when that question came back, I said, ooh, if they're confused, if they don't know what malice is, and they're asking that question, we got a problem. We have a
Right.
mixture of a perfect storm. They're clearly not convinced that there was malice, and if you don't have malice, you don't have murder. And it means that the defense sprinkled in just enough doubt that maybe he was defending his son. Now let's talk about legally what is malice. And it's not dislike, it's not hate. Probably don't even know this person. Perfect example with this case. In layman's terms, the best way I could describe malice is when someone intentionally does something that they know will cause death or serious bodily injury, and they don't have any legal justification for that action. And a legal justification would be self-defense, defense of others. They are doing this action knowing they're not doing it in self-defense. They're not doing it defending someone else, and they know their actions are going to either kill this person or cause serious bodily injury. And the defense attacked malice, just sprinkling in enough doubt that maybe he was defending his son. Did the prosecutors prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was not defending his child? Clearly not. In short, if someone kills another person because they feel like their life is threatened or someone else's life is threatened, then that killing does not include malice. You
And see, I'm really loving where she's going with this, and it's some good insight that she's giving us. She's giving us some really good insight. on how everything works as far as like evidence and proving without reasonable doubt, like she said, that this was in this case murder. I like how she's pointing out everything, and I like the fact that she's critiquing the prosecutors. The prosecutors did not do a good job, and I got a point that I want to make with that. I got a huge point that I want to make with that. So, but let's continue to let her cook.
Have to have malice for murder. When it comes to criminal law and crimes, it's like baking a cake, right? For a cake, you have a recipe. What you got? You got eggs, you got flour, you got some sugar, and whatever else you do to make a cake. The elements to murder is like a recipe.
Now she just want me to. She just made me want some pound cake, man. Some pound cake. Okay, look, look. If I got a lot of black viewers here, which I kind of hope so, but if I got a lot of black viewers here, that didn't make you want some pound cake. I mean, come on. That sounded great. She said she got the sugar. She know how to make some pound cake. Not only is she a lawyer, she know how to make some pound cake. I don't know, allegedly. I don't know if she really knows how to make pound cake, but the way she was describing it, I felt like she knew how to make some pound cake. But let's get focused. Let's not get distracted, because I just thought about pound cakes. I really want a pound cake, a lemon one to be exact. Anywho, let's continue to let her cook.
Recipe. You need all of these ingredients to make whatever you're making. For instance, if you don't have flour, I don't know what you're baking, but it's not a cake. There are certain things you need in order to put in the oven and the cake come out. Well, there are certain things you need
This
for
cake thing, man.
murder to come out of the jury's mouth.
Right.
Shout out to my criminal law professor, Judge April Walker, and I will never forget the definition of murder because she scared us all with it. It is the unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought expressed or implied. I'll never forget it. And all my classmates, put it in the comments if you ever forgot it. So what are the ingredients for murder? Unlawful killing. Unlawful means no legal defense, which means no self-defense, no defense of others. It is unlawful. No justification. So we have the unlawful killing. Second element, human being. You can't murder a bird. Has to be a human being. Next ingredient, with malice aforethought. We just talked about what malice is. You have to have malice to have murder. Remember? We baking a cake here. We're baking up murder. You need all these things. And if you're missing just one, you don't have what you're trying to bake. So the jury is saying that they do not believe that the prosecutors prove malice beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you're just missing one of the ingredients, you don't have it. And here's the problem I have with this case. We had a group of overzealous prosecutors who just felt like they had their case in the bag. You don't know what 12 people might do. That is why you CYA. Most of the time, they will include a lesser offense just in case they do not prove their burden, that they can walk away with a conviction. They can walk away with some type of justice for this
Right.
victim, but no. They just thought they had it. So they only charged him with murder, and they did not give.
And I'm gonna stop it right there because I'm gonna put my input on it really quick. Because when it comes to that case, she's absolutely correct. They didn't angle it the right way. They just was like, oh yeah, murder, boom. We saw in the video he didn't steal the water bottle, and they chased him down the street and killed him. That may be true. That may be true. That may be true. That is true. That's exactly what they did. But they couldn't prove that. That's the problem. They couldn't prove that it was like premeditated. They couldn't prove that he came out with the gun and was like chasing him with the gun. They couldn't prove none of that. And that was the problem. And the prosecutor was the problem. And I'm going to make my point on that. I'm glad she pointed it out. I rocks with Lauren the lawyer. Go follow her on TikTok. That was good. But I have another controversial clip here. And I want to point this out. And I'm making a point with this. So stay with me. Rock with me here. I'm making a point with this. Because we got to look at the facts versus the emotions. You see what I'm saying? Because there are facts and then there is emotions. And I understand that a lot of us in the black community get super emotional when there's a black deletion. That's that big. Like Zimmerman with the Trayvon Martin and the other cases, right? But I'm gonna make a point with that. We gonna get more into that in Black Coffee, but right now I'm gonna let Sean Kent cook real quick, and that's Rick Child's representative, his lawyer. So, without further ado, let's let him cook.
If Rick Chow executed a human being over a $1 bottle of water, enjoy hell. Let's make that clear. If Rick Chow shot a man in the back stealing $1 bottle of water from his store, you do what you will. Because there's nothing to justify this back and forth.
I'm gonna pause it real quick. That was a first point. If Rick Chow shot him for stealing a $1 bottle of water, do what you want. Note that. I want you guys to note that. Let's continue to let him cook.
Was he right? Was he wrong? It doesn't matter. Taking a human life over a bottle of water is absolutely ridiculous. It's wrong under any way that you could possibly look at it. And that's why the state has gone out of their way to put this $1 bottle of water up, to put this picture up, because they want you to believe that this is what this case is about. So first, let's talk about the eyewitnesses. And the reason I want to talk about the eyewitnesses first is, remember, and I wrote down a quote that the state said, cameras don't lie. For
Cameras don't lie. Point two.
For 17 minutes, you could have played these cameras. If you remember, these witnesses got on the stand, they sat in front of you, and I asked them questions. They looked directly at you. They were talking about what they remembered. They were talking about their memories and how important that is. And then I started asking them questions from right there. You remember? I said, no, I'm not trying to be rude, but I remember you talking to 911. Do you remember that? Yeah. And you said something different to the 911 tape that you're saying right here today. I asked another person, isn't it true that we don't interview witnesses together because they can get their stories together and their brains could get something that didn't really happen? Yeah. And that's on video, correct? Cameras don't lie. And they called 911, and in the 911 call, they said they didn't see anything, correct? Cameras don't lie.
Cameras don't lie.
But don't you remember, and I asked one of the witnesses, isn't it true that you told them something, and they said that was completely impossible? Well, yeah. And then they've met with you, they've talked to you, they've interviewed you, and put you on the stand, and you told something different. Cameras don't lie.
Now, we're gonna continue to let him finish his closing speech because it was phenomenal. I mean, he's on the opposite end of the spectrum. Of course, we want Cyrus Belt to get his just due and his family to get his just due, but I'm not gonna hold you. Your boy he's a monster. So I like his closing speech, but I want you to remember, go back real quick to Lauren the lawyer, that clip with Lauren the lawyer, and listen to what she said, and listen to what he just said. Right? So we got point one, and we got point two. Right? Point one, he said, if he killed him for stealing a $1 bottle of water, so be it. Do what you want. Now remember what Lauren, the lawyer, said. She said, you have to have all the ingredients to prove that there was malice. So point one, he's making a statement saying that there was no malice proven, right? Okay. Point two, cameras don't lie. He's doubling down. He's further going off of there was no malice proven. Cameras don't lie. When the cops showed up, the supposed witnesses said they didn't see anything. They get in court, they say something different. Remember, Lauren the lawyer said it has to be consistency, right? I'm getting to a point here. I want y'all to pay attention and stay with me. Let's continue to let him cook.
So why are we sitting here and not watching those videos? Why didn't the state give you the 911 calls? Why didn't they give you the videos? Why didn't they give you the information? If cameras don't lie. The rest of the story. I talked to one of the investigators and officers as he took the stand. Remember, we asked him, what is important as an investigator? It's important to get the facts, it's important to get the information, it's important to get the evidence as close to the incident as possible. So we can do what? Remember the question I asked him? So we can give all the information to the jury. The rest of the story. Because what we don't want to do is subject and put our emotions in there, our personal beliefs, our subjective decisions. That's what's happened. The rest of the story. But for some reason, the state of South Carolina doesn't want to give it to you. If Rick Chow executed a human being over...
Now, let's put it back on me real quick. My handsome face. I know y'all like looking at it. Anywho, let me stop being conceited. But you see what he's saying, right? The points that I'm pointing out right now, and the points that he's pointing out right now, is the fact that malice was not proven. Now, when it comes to a serious charge as murder, you have to have all the ingredients. It has to point to malice. It has to point to either premeditated. It has to point as to intentional. You know what I mean? These are all the degrees of a murder charge. So you got your third degree, where it's just purely just intentional. And it might be like, oh, we got into a fight and I lost a fight. Boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? That's third degree murder. Then you got the second degree, which is closer. It's kind of like premeditated. Right? Just to simplify it, it's like I'm fighting, but I already know I'm going to shoot him. Right? Boom. Then you got first degree, where you at home and you like, nah, I'm going to get this dude. I know where he work. I know where he live. I know where he go on a day-to-day basis. I know his schedule. I'm going to pull up on her and I'm going to get him. First degree murder. But none of those intentions were proven in that court case. Because like Lauren said, the prosecutors, it was the prosecutor's fault. That's the prosecutor's fault. And like I said, there's a point I'm getting with that. There's a point I'm getting to with that. All right, let's continue to let it go. I got one more clip where he was in an interview with a guy. I'm not sure if he was a YouTuber. I'm not sure who he is, but it was a pretty good interview, and I have to look over the whole thing. I want to look further into it myself. But without further ado, I got this clip right here.
Hearing from a defense attorney or attorney in general, kind of the things that they're looking for. Now, what if Mr. Child told you that a story that was inconsistent with the body camera? Like, what do you do in those situations? Because they hire you to do a job, you have to do a job.
I love that question because people get it so twisted. They're like, oh, you guys gonna lie. One, I'll lose my damn bar license if I lie, and there ain't not a damn client in the world who's worth lying for. Not gonna do it. And so I always tell people, and I charge a significant amount of money, and I tell them, if you're gonna lie to me, what's the point of me paying this information? Like, why lie to me if you're paying me all this money to help you? And two, I'm not gonna take money if I can't help you. And so one of the reasons I always like at the beginning is because when I got involved in this case later than everybody else, and they bring me in for a trial, and I said, look, it is not, and I know I don't want to mess myself up. It is not realistically what happened. It's what the evidence can show.
Right.
And so what I wanted to make sure is that he actually had a triable case based upon the evidence, because I'm not taking money if I can't help him. So let's say for argument's sake, I go and look at the medical examiner. The medical examiner says that is impossible. No matter what he is telling you, that shot came straight from the back from a direct. That's a different angle. I'm like, look, that can't happen. What people don't realize, I mean, I was going to draw a little picture, but what people don't realize is the shot, Brandon, came from right to left, slightly upward, back to front. And why that's important is everybody's saying back. It's really a flank shot.
Now, if you pay attention to what he's saying in this interview, I like the fact that he's giving more detail, and he's telling you his angle and how he was able to angle the court case, how he was able to defend Rick Child. Pay attention. Now he's in it right now. He's talking about how he was shot. It's a consistencies. Remember those consistencies I was talking about a few minutes ago? It's the consistency. Let's continue to let him cook.
As you know the difference. So there's a difference between a back and there's a difference between a flank. And medical examiners are usually reluctant to say back because it has such a bad connotation. It's really a flank shot, and we talked about it. So for people looking, the shot is going from right to left, which would support the human body turning slightly this way. And if there's one person in the front, someone behind them, and somebody facing this way, it would support a right to left shot. And so Rick Chow's, whether people like it or not, his accounting of what happened on the 911 call, the body cam, and to me, all supported what the evidence will say. People don't want to hear that, but it supports the evidence. And yeah, I think I'm a pretty damn good trial lawyer, but I'm only as good as what the evidence is going to show. If I'm sitting up there lying and I look like a liar, the jury's going to convict me. And so it was supported by the evidence, whether people agree with me or not.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. What are other things that you've seen out in the media that's just being flat out lies with this case? Because I think that in my next life I want to be a lawyer, man. I really admire lawyers. I love arguing, and I feel like I'm especially when the truth is on my side. I also did I was an expert witness in a civil case with some police officers, and because I argue for a living and I do podcasting and stuff, and I was a police officer, I absolutely dominated. I'm one of the major reasons why they ended up winning that civil lawsuit, because of the way I presented my answers to the, keeping a comment.
I know who that is. That's the police officer guy from New York. What's his face? I can't remember his name right now. If you remember his name, you put it in the comments below. But I know who that is. He is a YouTuber. So, all right, let's continue.
Demeanor, the jury was very convinced, but the truth was on our side. But with that being said, so I'm always, when these cases come up, and I used to watch court TV all the time, I love this stuff. When these cases come up, I look at the probable cause statement, I look at some of the evidence, and I'm able to be almost 100% accurate on all of these cases. But what are some of the things that the public did not get right or may not have known about this case that landed, and you said a small amount of it in part, that landed this to a pretty sure verdict versus what people may have expected it to be more complicated? It seemed to be straightforward. He did what he did. He ran, he was shot. That seems simple, but what are some of the things that people may have missed or they may have gotten wrong in the media that that most people don't?
There's three things that I think that everybody has run with and gone crazy. The one was the big one that I just told you about, just shot in the back. There's a difference that we talk about from flank and back, and the angle was so important, which supported what Rick and Andy said. Whether you disagree or not, it was supported by what they said. Number two, the number one thing I'm hearing is that, that boy didn't have a gun, or nobody saw him with a gun inside of his hand. I'm hearing that. You would be shocked how much I'm hearing. Like, there's no evidence he didn't have a gun. The witnesses never saw a gun. I don't care what a witness says when they found a gun with his DNA and fingerprints on the scene. And so we're hearing a lot that eyewitnesses did not see him with a gun. One of the biggest mistakes, and these prosecutors are my dearest friends. I've known the head prosecutor for 30 years. He is as good of a brother as there is. He's a great human being. But one of their big mistakes where they put certain witnesses on the stand and their statements were so inconsistent from their 911 calls. So what ended up happening is these brothers and sisters called 911. And for people who don't know, and Brandon, 911, I think you're going to get the most accurate, what someone believes right then and there, because they don't have time to make up a lie. So all the witnesses, and I mean all of them, every single witness the state put on the stand on 911, the 911 operator says, "Did you see it?" They're like, "No, I didn't see what happened. I came up afterwards," or "I didn't see it," or all of them consistently said they didn't see it. Then on the stand, it's just like, "Well, I saw it." And what happens is social media.
Hearing from a defense attorney or attorney in general.
Now, did you all catch everything? If not, here's the key. He's saying that he got all the evidence to say that Rick Child was telling the truth. And with the consistency of the evidence and what Rick Child was saying and his claim, right? It all points to him saying that it was the truth. Right? But there are two truths, though. There's always two truths, right? There's always two truths and a lie. That's the saying, right? So when you're looking at it, okay, he turned around and pointed a gun. They found a gun in the scene. He was shot up in the angle of his back, not directly in his back, which is pointing towards him turning around and possibly pointing a weapon. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. You got the recipe. Like Lauren said, the recipe is all there. I know a lot of you don't want to hear that, especially coming out of another black person's mouth. But as I presented here, these are all black people. They are black lawyers, but they're lawyers. They work for the system, blah, 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 blah. Does it matter? They still black. I'm pretty sure they don't hate their people. I'm pretty sure they don't. I'm almost 100% sure they don't. But a lawyer's got to do his job. And if you have a winning case, and I can tell this black man here, Sean Kent, don't shoot the messenger, because Sean Kent, he just went with the winning case. He got to make his money too. That's just like me. Like if I'm approaching a car, right? And I see that I can't do the work, I'm like, oh, I might not be able to diagnose this. I might not be able to work on this car. I'm going to kindly tell that client that I can't do it. I know somebody that might be able to do it, or a shop, or what have you. I might point them in that direction, but if I can't do it, I personally can't do it. I'm not going to sit here and trouble myself with a losing case. And he did just that. He got his money, he got paid, he won the case. He said he could do it. He saw the evidence, he looked at everything, he saw how he could angle it. Now, whether Rick Child left out something or not, that's neither here or there. He won the case. And I'm just going off of what he went off of. You know what I mean? Kind of defending him a little bit. Y'all might not like me for that. That's cool. We in the meeting. We can have, friendly debates here. That on my platform, that's what I'm accepting. I'm allowing friendly debates here. Y'all, we can debate back and forth in the comments. But I'm on the defending side for that lawyer, Sean Kent. It's not his fault. I mean, it is his fault, but it's not. And there's a reason for that. And we have a history of that. As far as like black cases and black deletions, we have a history of that. We have a history of not getting justice and our just due when it comes to our cases as far as us getting deleted. There's a reason for that. And it all started back in the day. But without further ado, let's get it. Black coffee, baby. Being black in America has been one heck of a journey.
America has given the Negro people a bad check.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us.
All right. Black coffee. Like I was saying. There's a reason that we never get justice in our cases. There's a huge reason for that. And of course, systematic racism. I mean, for those of you that don't like it or like to hear that, there's, ghosts watching my channel or what have you. I don't care. I'm just giving out facts. These are facts here. This is historical facts. Systematic racism. So in the beginning, I'm going to take you back to the beginning a little bit. So I'm going to read what I got here. This is how the vacuum started. So what they call is a vacuum, like a repeat of things happening. A vacuum. It just keep happening. That's what a vacuum does. Is it constantly inhales. It's a vacuum. It's constantly happening. It's consistent, right? That's why they call it a vacuum. So, beginning in the 1930s, the Federal Housing Administration implemented redlining. This was a lending practice that color coded neighborhoods by racial uh, composition, and systematically denied mortgage loans and business credit to residents of black neighborhoods. The presence of non-black business owners in predominantly black neighborhoods is not accidental. It is documented result of deliberate federal policy. And prior to the redlining, I had to put that point out here. You know, I got my notes here when it comes to black coffee. This is the meat of the business meeting right here. You feel what I'm saying? But I put that in there just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on right here. Because prior to that, when we was allowed into the workforce, quote unquote, you know, after 1865, when our freedom was enforced in Texas, and thereafter throughout the whole United States, right? When immigrants was allowed, and that was late 1800s, like 1890s, when immigrants were started to be allowed into the United States, and they started bringing in immigrants, right? Late 1890s, early 1900s, they were hired, and Asians were the first to be over here as immigrants, right? After the post colonization, yeah, if you follow me with the timestamp, they will hire Asians over blacks, saying that Asians wasn't lazy, they were the minority. I mean, it was a government social tactic, creating a negative light on black people, saying that we're lazy, we're savages, we're thugs, we're gangsters, thieves, liars, not easy to work with, you know, all the above, right? And this is real. This is real. I'm not sitting up here playing this victimhood thing. I don't do that. For those of you who've been following me for the last 4 videos, because I reinvented my channel, know that I'm not sitting here playing victimhood. I hate it. But this is what was happening. They were hiring Asians because they was one of the first immigrants that was over here. Hence why they got China, Vietnam town, and all that different things. In lieu to say that we're lazy, to paint a negative light over us. See, the Asians could do it. They would even go as far as giving them business loans when we couldn't get business loans. If we wanted to be entrepreneurial and start our own business, we have to start from the ground up, from pure scratch. And to this day, that is still a fact. Now, we do have black business loans that are available and grants and stuff like that, but they're mostly for women. I'll get into that in a whole nother episode. We'll talk about that later. But so that's what they started doing. They started giving the Asians business loans. They started to give them better housing in our own community. They will plant them in our own community. Seriously. They will plant their businesses in our own community. A slap in the face. A pure slap in the face. Just to entice conflict between us and the Asians. And it did. It wasn't major, it didn't get violent, but it was like, well, how come the Asians, they not better than us, you know what I mean? And then the Asians is like, apparently we are, you know. So it's to influence that type of conflict, and it's been back and forth for many, many years. Now, getting further into the redlining, since I'm back there, I had to give you a little bit of background prior to the 1930s, right? The word came from literal red lines drawn on the federal maps, for those of you that didn't know that. Black areas were outlined in red, marked as hazardous. And this is further confirming what I was saying that we're thugs, we're gangsters, we're lazy, we're dangerous, right? Hazardous. That's why they call it redlining, right? And their residents were denied access to federal backed loans. The maps made the discrimination official, systematic, and nationwide. The consequences were direct and compounding. Black residents could not secure the capital to own homes or businesses in their own communities. The wealth building mechanism of property ownership and structurally removed from black neighborhoods for generations. Into the vacuum came immigrant entrepreneurs. First, I correct myself. I said Asian, but they were one of the first people. They wasn't the first, but they were one of the first people. First, there were the Jewish merchants, right? So they brought them in after the whole Holocaust thing. I'm tread lightly when I say that, but I'm saying this for educational purposes. In the early 20th century, then Arab, Korean immigrants from the 1960s onward. So Arab and Korea, like a India, right? That's all Asian countries, right? Okay, so who were not subject to the same lending discrimination and could access small business administration loans and community bank credit denied to black residents. So that was just the beginning. That was a pocket. That was the plant right there to cause conflict between us and the immigrants. And then thereafter became the immigrants became minorities, right? When their families and their groups, their cliques started coming here and making their own areas because they was granted that. It was incentivized for that. They can do that, right? That's why you got the Chinatown, you got the Indian areas, you got the Arabic areas, you got the Vietnam areas, the Spanish towns, the Mexican towns or whatever. You got all that stuff. It's the same scope, the same incentivized conflict. The same thing. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed, and I'm getting to a point here with the Rick Child case. I'm getting to a point, right? Matter of fact, I've actually reached my point a little bit. Here's the kicker: we were never able to get the best lawyers, the best representation. With all the shootings, the deletion of black people, the police shootings, the racial shootings, all those, the shooting of the church and all that stuff like that. We never had the best representation in law because the justice system systematically was built against us, not for us. And that's just a fact. Here in this Rick Child case, right? We got the fact that he turned around and pointed a gun. We got the evidence that he shot in defense of his son. And it makes sense. His son did go after him prior to the dad going after him. His dad was behind the son when they was running. When they ran out the store. So it all makes sense. Then you have overzealous, like Lauren said in Cafe News, you have overzealous prosecutors saying, oh, we got a murder case closed and shut. When you should have got the evidence for manslaughter. Right? For a manslaughter or a third-degree murder. You should have got the evidence for that. But that's just go back to the systematic racism that exists today. No, I'm not pointing this for everybody to be victim. I'm making it a point. I'm trying to open people's eyes and say, wow, well, we should boycott. No, we absolutely should not boycott it. I mean, let's go back in time, and I got proof to the pennies. I got evidence right here. You feel me? So, Latasha Harlins, 1991, 15 years old, $1.79 bottle of orange juice, shot in the back of her head, and that was in Where was that at? I'm not sure what that location of that. That was 1991. Los Angeles. I'm sorry. There you go. Empire Liquor Market. She didn't get her just doing that. He got off on that, and he was a Vietnamese guy, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Then you got the Korean community. Well, he was Korean. I'm sorry. You got the Red Apple boycott, 1991 as well. It's just a repeated pattern on that. The grocery gap in 2000. You got the anti-Asian violence and erasure of context, right? You got all these things happening. These are things that are happening like over time. It's a repeat effect. Like I said, when you go back in time, from the beginning, they started it. This is a planted conflict between the immigrants and the Black Americans. This is a continuation of systematic racism. Oh, somebody in the comments might come in. Well, true. I'm not sure if this was a sort of systematic racism. It is. Well, both lawyers were black. Cool. Why didn't the prosecutor bring the history of Rick Child shooting at other young black kids? Those young black kids didn't die or they got shot, but he has a history of shooting at people. Why didn't they bring that history? Why didn't they bring the evidence of the gun was found after the fact that the police arrived? Meaning the gun was never pulled out prior to him getting shot. Why didn't they bring in the evidence of Cyrus Belt turning around because he's scared? He's trying to see how far of a distance he got ahead of him. He's still in escape mode. He's trying to get away. He wasn't trying to shoot them. He's trying to get away from them. There's two people running after you. Why didn't they angle the fact that they illegally chased him out of the store instead of calling the police? These things would have had the recipe to malice, right? But we have poor representation in the court of law because the justice system was built against us, not for us. My point that I'm getting here is the fact that we shouldn't boycott the Asian community. We should boycott the justice system if we're going to do a boycott, right? There's different ways of going about getting things handled. But boycotting a whole community due to this situation, now granted, it has been a repeated situation where Koreans got off on deleting our black children or black people in general. Eventually, the conflict did get violent. But if you go back prior to the 1930s, this was a planned conflict. A planned conflict to make us look bad to the outside eye. The people overseas, in the UK, in India, in Asia, Japan, or whatever, in Russia, South America. This is a trick to make us look like that. coinciding with the degeneracy being promoted on a consistent basis within our music, within our media that we don't own. So when you say let's boycott them, when you start attacking the Asian, you're causing an unnecessary battle that's not justified. Is what I'm saying. Here's the refill. Look at the whole scope of things. Look at what's really going on in the context of the situation. The family couldn't afford to hire a good enough prosecutor. Not to say that the lawyers wasn't good at all. They thought they had it in the bag. They was way ahead of themselves. And that's just the fact of the matter. So the call to action, look at the whole scope, look at the history. There's nothing, you know my saying by now, there is nothing new under the sun. The history of yesterday could give you a lot of information about the present. And that's a fact. Let me know what you guys think. It's your boy, True. If you haven't already, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. I wanna hear your thoughts. How you perceive this case. Was a verdict justified? Do you think I'm right? Or do you have a rebuttal? And if you have a rebuttal, please be respectful in my comment. Like I said, it's your boy True. This is Cafe Morning Grind. And the meeting is now adjourned. Peace, baby.